focusing on the breath is a concentration exercise, and that trains your focus over time. It's kind of like training a muscle in the gym. The more you train your focus, either in meditation or what I'm mostly going to talk about in this video, on a specific task or on your work or on your career, on just reading a book, something as simple as reading a book is actually really rare among people my age these days. And by the way, it's a windy one out here, so the camera might be shaking a little bit. The wind might be picking up in the microphone, but I wanted to come out here and record this video for you. But yeah, even just something as simple as reading a book, people don't have the concentration to do that nowadays. So, maybe instead of when you're going to go watch an entertaining YouTube video or a TV show or look at the news, I know there's a lot of turmoil going on in the world right now, but it's not a good idea to get yourself too drawn into that, because at the end of the day, there's nothing you can do about it. It's not within your control. So, first things first, let's try and use our attention, our focus to those things which are in our control, which is our life. And by doing that, that's how we're going to make a difference. That's how we're going to improve things in the world, by just doing our little part, by getting everybody to do their part. That's what we should be focusing on, not all those things, all these distractions, right? So one idea I want to bring up that I heard that really impacted me recently is your work is your worship. Because, and this is something that, this is my next step in my spiritual evolution, I'm realizing, and I think it's going to be the same for a lot of people, because spirituality, while it's very important, in my opinion, it's the most important thing in life. It's the reason why we're even here, is to grow and evolve spiritually. It can also, if it's looked at in the wrong way, it can be an escape from really putting hard work in your life and being disciplined. Like, prioritizing spirituality is very important, but the spiritual aspects also come down into the physical reality as well. You may have heard the saying, as above, so below. And what that means is, it's hard to explain, and the reason it's a saying is because it's sort of beyond language almost. But if I was to try to explain it, it essentially means that, like, as above, as your spiritual aspirations and your spiritual consciousness, as your consciousness spiritualizes in the realm of the divine, so below, so that below in the material reality, that will also manifest in material reality as abundance and as wealth and as prosperity. Being woke doesn't mean being broke. Sometimes there's this idea that if you're spiritual, like, it's almost like a mark of honor that I'm just a spiritual warrior, and I don't have any money, but that's just because I'm spiritual. But it doesn't have to be that way. We can also be very abundant as well. Don't take anything I'm saying dogmatically. Like, just because someone's poor at the same time, that doesn't mean they're not spiritual. I don't have a whole lot of money right now, but I still consider myself a spiritual person. And I also realize that, my next step is I've really immersed myself in a lot of spiritual consciousness, I feel like, over this past year or two. Now it's really time to bring that down into the physical reality, share what I've learned with other people, and become more abundant materially. That doesn't mean that I'm letting go of my spirituality. That doesn't mean that I'm going to stop meditating. That doesn't mean that I'm going to stop reading scripture. It just means that I am going to prioritize and put more focus into my career and sharing spiritual truths with people, because God's truths were meant to be shared. It wasn't meant to just be hoarded all up in yourself. And it's okay to start with yourself, start learning yourself. Take 1, 2, 3 years to immerse yourself in your own spirituality before you go ahead and share that. But even within that time, just the way that your consciousness sort of spiritualizes, and the way that you interact in the world is going to have an uplifting impact on people, where you immerse yourself in spiritual qualities. And the way you're going to do that is through focus, through focusing on what really matters, right? Through focusing on cultivating your spirituality in your life. But you don't want to neglect I think it just kind of depends where you're at. You know, if you've been focusing on spirituality for a while, but you're kind of lacking abundance materially, it might be time to prioritize that more and make sure that you're not using spirituality as an escape. On the other hand, if you've really been working hard on your business and you've made a lot of money and you've seen that prosperity in your life, but you feel like something's missing, you feel a little bit empty, then it's time to really prioritize your spirituality and make that a focus. Maybe take a step back a little bit. This camera is almost about to blow over here in the wind, but maybe take a step back a little bit and try and reclaim that time for yourself to find some time to meditate every day, to find some time to read some uplifting spiritual material. But I want to talk about the idea a little bit more that your work is your worship, because I feel like that's something that I was missing for a little bit and that I was kind of neglecting. Focusing, on building your career, focusing and doing the best job you can at your work instead of kind of just half-assing it, doing the bare minimum. No, you want to put your full effort in, and you don't want to, become a workaholic and take it to the extreme. But while you're there working, you want to have the ability or train yourself over time to put your full focus on the task at hand and do the best job you can with that. That's actually a very spiritual thing to do. Even though it's not meditation, even though it's not, some type of worship, your work is your worship, so it really is. Because this is the task that God put in front of you. Whatever you have to work on right now, you can look at it as God put this task in front of me for me to do to the best of my ability. And that's a way of being spiritual. That's a way of bringing your spirituality down and really making it practical as well. It goes both ways. You focusing on your material life and being able to bring that focus there is going to strengthen your spirituality, as well as you focusing on your spirituality is going to build your focus and allow things to become more abundant in your material life. So spirituality really encompasses all of life. It's not just sitting there in meditation. It's not just reading scripture or some spiritual material. It's not just on Sundays when you go to church or go to a temple or whatever you do. It's also how you act throughout the whole rest of your life. That's when you really become a true spiritual being and a spiritual warrior, is when it touches all aspects of your life. I'm trying to think if there's anything else I wanted to touch upon. How can you withdraw your focus now from all those distractions that are really pulling at you, because you may want really to focus on building your business, to focus on spirituality more, to meditate, to read more books. But these distractions can be really gripping and just pull you back in, because it really stimulates the dopamine centers in your brain. Your brain doesn't know any nuance. It only knows this is going to give me a lot of dopamine, so I'm going to go and do that. So one thing that can be really good is a dopamine detox. Just take 24, 48 hours and that you're not going to go on your phone, not going to watch TV, just set some boundaries for yourself for that time to detox your brain. And that's just going to reset yourself back to a baseline to where you're then able to find a lot of dopamine and enjoyment from reading a book, from working on that creative project or working on your job. When you're dopamine center's not kind of like fried and like artificially overstimulated. Like we weren't meant to live like this. As I said, the previous generations didn't have this problem, but nowadays it's just something like reading a book. It's not as stimulating as seeing all these hyper edited YouTube videos and these crazy TV shows, like, you know, all this crap that's clouding our awareness. Um, you'll find that you actually just feel a lot more calm and joyful throughout the day once you're able to take a step back and kind of take that detox and use your focus intentionally. When you're able to detox your brain, then you're going to be able to intentionally create your life and spend time on the things that are really going to be good for you and really going to make you happy, not just some little dopamine hit that, okay, it feels good in the moment, but then you're going to wake up a year later and wonder where all that time went, right? So, um, so how can you do that when you feel that pull? One thing you can do is journal about it, you know, and this kind of goes back to the shadow work topic that I've talked about a couple times. Journal and introspect and see, what am I getting out of doing this activity? Why do I want to do it so much? Maybe what am I running away from? What does this activity give me that I can maybe find in a healthier way? That, okay, I want to relax at the end of the day. Maybe instead of watching TV for a few hours, maybe I can read a book, or maybe I can go on a walk. You know, something you can do also is just right at that moment when you feel that pull to go do something that, like, to do something that you know is not in your best interest and is a habit you want to overcome, right at that moment when you feel that pull, just go focus in another direction. Just go work on that creative project. Go apply that energy in a more productive way. Or turn that energy inward spiritually, go meditate. You know, just, and I think that, like, there'll be some resistance initially, like you want that quick dopamine hit, but you'll actually find that you feel much better when you just go and focus in another direction that's more productive for your life. You're going to feel much better once you start doing that and push past that initial resistance, to where if you just go with, you know, with that quick dopamine hit, you'll find that actually afterwards you just don't feel very fulfilled and that you kind of regret that decision. So just keep that in mind. And, you know, if you do fall back into that, don't beat yourself up. Don't, like, let it become a vicious cycle where now you're, like, beating yourself up, and that's going to cause you, I think we've all been caught in a cycle at one point or another where, okay, now we're kind of like self-hating, and so we're going to get in a cycle of consumption that's just going to become more and more extreme until we have to bring ourselves out of it. Don't let it get there. You know, if you slip once, don't slide down the whole mountain. Just pick yourself back up and continue with those activities that are going to be best for your welfare. You know, and sometimes it might be tough. You can feel some resistance in your heart, but just do it anyways. And over time, you're going to build that momentum, and it's going to become a lot easier to just make those healthy choices. So I hope this helped, guys. Hopefully the wind wasn't too bad. Apologies for that, but I still wanted to record this. And yeah, you've got the willpower to make your life exactly how you want it to be. Exercise your focus, exercise your willpower. Don't let those bad habits take hold of your conscience. Go out there and make a difference in your own life, and then that's going to allow you to make a difference in the life of others. I also want to say that if you're interested in working with me, I'm starting a spiritual fellowship group. I'll leave a pinned comment down below with the details of that. So reach out to me on Instagram or on Substack, or drop a comment if you're interested, and we can get into contact. I'll be starting this group in the first week of May, and this will be the cheapest it'll ever be to work with me. It'll be $50 a month to be a part of these weekly calls, and I'm really excited to get started with this. And And if you're looking to strengthen your spirituality and anchor yourself in spirituality, I really believe I can help you find and cultivate a spiritual practice that's right for you. So check that pinned comment, and I'll see you on the next one.